Hi there, I'm Sarah Smarsh, and I wrote a book called Heartland, a memoir of working hard and being broke in the richest country on earth. And I am so honored and thrilled that the National Endowment for the Arts has selected Heartland for its 2022-23 Big Read. Heartland is the intergenerational story of my family's struggle with poverty. It's really a book about socioeconomic class, which I believe is an under-discussed and poorly articulated concern and identity marker in the United States. So while it is a memoir and it includes a good deal of my upbringing in the latter 20th century in rural poverty on a wheat and cattle farm in south central Kansas, it is, I hope, a springboard to discussion about and consideration of the ways in which public policy and popular culture and these sort of external forces affect and impact and mold our interior and private and very intimate domestic lives. Today I work as a professional journalist, and most of the folks who raised me didn't finish high school, let alone go on to college and get the sort of professional credentials that I was fortunate to acquire. And for that reason, I kind of have a foot in two different worlds always simultaneously. That poor rural space where I come from and where much of my family still resides. And I still live in rural Kansas, by the way. And also the professional realm that I occupy as a journalist and writer. And for that reason, I'm often called upon to be a sort of bridge person between two worlds that perhaps don't always understand each other, and certainly in these times of severe social fractures. Heartland is really a bridge between those worlds that might not often speak to each other. I've heard from folks who don't have any direct experience of rural spaces or of poverty in any space, that the story opened their eyes to the complexity and nuance and humanity of those places that they might have viewed through pat stereotypes and negative cliches. And then conversely, I hear from folks who do have direct experience of those spaces, that they have felt some sense of validation or being seen and understood through the narrative, which is important work to my mind, since popular culture and the prevailing narratives about people in poverty, rural, urban, and everything in between are often dehumanizing and just plain inaccurate. So Heartland does the work of connecting seemingly separate spaces and conveying the ways in which we are all indeed united, and our fates rise and fall together. I've been privileged to be asked a lot of questions about Heartland in the few years since it came out. And I guess the question that I'm asked less often, that I always love to answer, is the book's kind of origin story. So I think that because of these times, especially in political terms, readers might assume that I wrote the book after 2016, which was a pivotal political election year in which we started hearing the phrase "the rural-urban divide" as this sort of clunky, inadequate, in my opinion, description of political likelihoods. And in fact, I started working on this book in the early 2000s, when I was just out of college as a first-generation student at the University of Kansas. And I spent much of that decade writing the book, and darn if I couldn't get an agent to represent it or a publisher to publish it. And so I kind of tucked it away, and then many years later, the world and the culture had sort of shifted in such a way, I suppose, that people were ready to start talking about class in a way that perhaps previously they didn't understand my matter. And so hence the book didn't come out until 2018, but it must have been Kairos, that's divine timing, because I've found the book has been of good service to the national discussion, and I hope that it might be part of the discussion in your community.